So hello and welcome to another Cardano360, your monthly tour of the expanding Cardano universe. I'm Tim Harrison, and joining me as ever is Aparna Jue, Cardano Product Director. Aparna, what have we got coming up this month?
Well, for this month, we're focusing on three initiatives of the Cardano project. One, our main event, Alonzo, which is the hard fork combinator event that brings smart contract functionality onto Cardano. So we're going to talk about the delivery roadmap, we're going to talk to partners, and we're going to talk with pioneers on their experience and their progress. Two, we're going to dive into Marlowe. So we've had a few exciting announcements that we'd like to share with you guys. So we're going to have a quick chat with the team on Marlowe. And three, as always, we value our governance pillar that's chugging along in parallel with all these other projects. So, an update from Dor regarding Project Catalyst.
And also coming up, we'll have an update from Wolfram and also from SingularityNET and news on the ERC20 converter that many of you have been waiting for. And finally, we'll have a bit of an update on a few of the research projects that are going on in parallel to all our development. But first of all, let's dive straight in. Let's talk Alonzo.
When we talk about software product development, it typically follows a life cycle development cadence with prototypes and alphas and betas. Then you get to the MVP, and then you iterate on that and go forward from there. So it's no surprise then what the IO team is talking about bringing Plutus smart contracts onto Cardano, which is the Alonzo hard fork combinator event. We're following something very similar. Now, we've done this with the ITN, and we've also done this with Shelley, and we've also learned where the gaps are and where we could improve. And so there's one big difference between typical software product development to what we're doing here, and that's the transparency of the whole project. So usually we're closed about this process, and we would do a lot of our testing internally by ourselves before we put out the main event. But with Alonzo, we're incredibly open. So the entire testing process will actually bring into the journey our pioneers, our partners, our SPOs, and eventually our community. And we've done this through multiple phases. So in this section, we're going to open up those phases and have the team really talk about what's in each of those phases, what functionality is available in each of those phases, who's going to be able to start to work with it, and what we are looking for as a team for a successful phase transition to go to the next phase. Now, this lasts over three phases. It's kind of a 90-day thing. So without further ado, let's get into it. And you know what? Tim was actually talking about this earlier with us today about building a barn or something like that. Tim, talk about that analogy because I thought that was really interesting.
That's right. The analogy we used was a barn raising, where effectively the community comes together and builds something collaboratively, starting with the foundations, building the floors, building the walls, starting to put the plumbing and the electrics in. And that's really what we're doing here with the testnet process. So we've divided everything into a series of testnets, different colors, color coded, really to help everybody navigate their way through this series of steps, adding functionality, adding capability, and bringing in new audiences. So starting with a relatively small cohort and building that out gradually as we head towards full public testnet and then obviously full mainnet capability. But I won't talk about it too much because, as you say, we've got Nigel, we've got Gerard, we've got Dimitris, and of course we've got Kevin to walk us through a few of those steps as we build the barn together. So maybe let's start with you, Kevin. Phase one, that very early alpha testnet. We're calling it the blue testnet, aren't we? Perhaps you can just take us through a little bit about this first stage.
Yeah, so Alonzo Blue is laying the foundations, Tim. What we're going to be doing is to start from the very beginning. We're going to be starting from a very basic version of the node, and gradually we're going to work through a series of steps, adding in additional functionality, making sure that everything works with a very select group of people. Initially, we'll be working with a few of our SPO colleagues who we've worked with before on the other testnets and and on Telegram channels, etc. And then we'll be bringing in a few additional partners. We'll be bringing in a few of the Plutus pioneers who've been undergoing a course that Lars has been putting on, so an educational course teaching them all about how to use Plutus, how to interact with the smart contract capability that we're developing. And we'll be working up to a stage where we're able to submit some simple contracts onto the testnet, where the pioneers can check that they work. They can verify that all the basic functionality is there, it's working, and it's going to be then ready to open up to a broader group of individuals.
So we'll start there, Kevin, with, as I say, a subsection of SPOs, a subsection of the pioneers. We're also working with a number of professional development shops, aren't we, Jer, working to help kick the tires of the code and get things set up.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Tim. We've got 7 companies now working with us to try and build a typical use cases. And by doing that, we're learning a lot about the documentation, how Plutus is actually constructed, and various things that just go towards providing a better experience. So we have, as I say, 7 companies based in Europe, and we've got an 8th company from the United States that will be joining us soon. And each of them is going to do 1 or 2 different use cases, ranging from things including oracles. We're looking at DEXs, lending and borrowing, crypto-backed stablecoins, NFTs, and DeFi tools. So what we're going to get out of this whole exercise is going to be code and documentation. And it'll be available to all of our community as a kind of a catalyst, so to speak, for them to be able to learn and evolve and build smart contracts of their own. I think the other cool thing about these Plutus development partners is that they're putting in a lot of work, and they're going to learn a lot. So they'll also be available for people who want to collaborate with them later on when after the hard fork happens. The companies, as I say, we've got 7 of them. There's AltLabs in Serbia, ELEKS in Ukraine, Node Factories in Croatia. We've got Metalamp in Russia, D Quadrant, who are based in the Netherlands, M-Labs from the UK, Binary Apps from Poland, and Obsidian then from the United States. So it's a pretty active crew. A lot of work going on. There's a public repository as well, which we'll share with everybody in June, where they can see the work that's happening there, and we're very excited with what they're producing.
Okay, so Alonzo Blue, the first stage, the earliest testnet, the alpha, and this is, as you say, Kevin, where really it's about getting the Alonzo era nodes working together, talking to each other with a relatively small subsection of the community. We'll then move on to Alonzo White, where things start to open up in terms of capability and in terms of developer audiences. Perhaps you can just take us through a little bit of what Alonzo White will be.
Yeah, so Alonzo White is going to be opening up to a broader group of the community, as you're saying, Tim. We'll be opening up to the subset of the Plutus pioneers, who will be able to submit Plutus transactions using the node CLI. They'll be able to do all the things that we've been doing by the end of Blue, but have been in a more stable, more open framework. And in addition, the partners that Jazz mentioned, they'll be running a number of demo DApps. People will be able to interact with those DApps. And in the background, what we're doing is to develop a number of core components that are necessary to create the ultimate Plutus experience that we're aiming at. So we'll be working on the wallet backend to support the Alonzo era. And very importantly, we'll be working on the Plutus application backend, which is going to link up with the Plutus front end to allow people to interact very easily and naturally with the testnets and with the mainnet in due course.
So, Nigel, obviously a lot of work has already gone on in terms of development of a lot of these components, but the Alonzo White stage, I guess, is really when things start coming together in terms of integrations and all the different developer teams starting to plug everything into each other. Perhaps you can just tell us a little bit more about the process that's going to happen there during this stage.
This is where all the integrations really start to kick into gear. We started off with the first very simple network, which we've called Blue. And on the Blue network, we get our nodes set up, and we start to generate stability around our core infrastructure, which also includes the on-chain Plutus components. When we have got a more stable environment, we'll move into the white network and we'll spin up a clean network, which will enable us to basically start getting all the off-chain components integrated. This includes the Plutus application backend, and it also includes the wallet backend. This is the exciting stage, because at this stage, all of our partners who have developed use cases locally are able to actually start testing out their scripts within a real live environment. And we'll start to see the benefits of some of this functionality. In addition to this, this will be the first time when we can start to get proper, real benchmarks and costs completed and reported against, as we're now live on a fully end-to-end network.
So thanks, Nigel. Going back to Kevin for a second, I want to talk about what are we successfully looking for from an acceptance criteria to move from one phase to the other, specifically blue to white, and then now white is when a lot of the magic starts to happen, white to the next phase. Can you give us an idea of what that is, Kevin?
Well, partly upon it's about making sure we have the right functionality to support the large group. So we'll be putting in place additional tooling. We'll be setting up some scripts. We'll be setting up a proper faucet to make it easy for the pioneers to engage. But most importantly, what we'll have been doing is to test out the node, make sure that everything that we've implemented is working properly. We'll have tested out a set of exercises and tutorials that we've been developing to make the experience as good as we possibly can.
So, Dimitris, let's bring you in now. You're something of a veteran of our previous ITN and Shelley campaigns, helping deliver those over a period of stages very similar to here. Perhaps you can just give us a bit more of an indication around how the community is getting involved at these different stages and the sort of experience they have, and also the sort of value they can add to the process.
Indeed, Tim, and there have been several major network events during the last 18 months, from ITN and Shelley, Hartford to Allegra, and then more recently Mary. And we have devoted a lot of time and effort after each one of those to ensure that we learn and improve by utilizing the experience we now have under our belt. And the results seem to confirm that. So our coordination and release processes are now maturing, and the results are more and more smoother compared to the early ITN days, for example. As also noted from the SPOs, from the recent Mary Hartford, that was almost unnoticeable, which is actually a great success when it comes to the delivery part. So in order to achieve that and continue improving further, the focus is to ensure that all the key components are available as early as possible and tested thoroughly, which is also being done gradually with the contribution of some of our community members and partners. So in the early stages of the journey, not all the components and tools will be available. Thus, a certain level of technical expertise is initially required. Same as in the previous major events, Alonzo Hard Fork requires a series of components to be available and integrated, and it's quite a complex activity that needs to be coordinated with a high level of precision. What we're looking to accomplish for Alonzo in the following weeks and months is to iteratively roll out the components and features as they become available over different environments, which are also color-coded. So starting from an internal one and progressing by gradually adding more and more people based on the stability achieved. And when I say people, I mean the community, SPOs, partners, and all the different groups of people that are actively involved also on mainnet, and who will help us by providing their valuable early feedback that we can also consider as the journey between the different phases progresses. Our ultimate goal, of course, is to reach a level of stability and usability that will be adequate for performing another smooth and uneventful hard fork event on the Cardano mainnet. So, starting from our first environment, which is about to be available, we will involve some SPOs to help us run the first few relays and simulate the mainnet configuration and verify that they can upgrade their nodes to the Alonzo era. This is expected to be our first environment, so it will be volatile, almost certainly, and there are going to be some issues we will need to address, as well as quite a few resets that will need to take place quite often to start with, and then hopefully reduce the number of resets as we progress. And this is all part of the journey and the process. So we will then gradually look to bring in more SPOs, exchanges, partners, and pioneers to start experimenting with the Plutus application framework, integrate using the wallet backend APIs. And in the meantime, of course, the team will be working to produce and update the documentation so that when we reach a point that everything is working as expected, we will then be ready and stable enough to bring in more and more people in our test environments. It's all agile, and we will be providing more updates in the coming weeks as the journey continues.
And Kevin, will be keeping the community busy as ever. Are we going to be running more tutorials and scripts and these sort of things as you did with previous rollouts?
Yes, I've been busy beavering away in the background, Tim, writing a series of exercises for pioneers and others to use to test out the testnet capabilities. So I'm comfortable with what I've done so far. And what I'm looking forward to is writing all the exciting exercises for things we can do in Purple. Really complex transactions, really taking advantage of all the smart contract capabilities that we're building in. Minting tokens, native tokens, writing redeemer scripts, writing all kinds of validator scripts, and dealing with metadata and all kinds of other things that we will be able to do once we have full Plutus.
Right. So, Kevin, thank you for that, because it seems like Purple is where a lot of the action really comes in terms of real world use cases, lots and lots of users. All the pioneers are on board, and now we've got exchanges involved. So that's pretty much a real world test case, kind of like your mainnet candidate right before launch. So going to pivot back to Nigel on this from the delivery angle. So how do we get from Purple to the Hard Fork Combinator event? Take me through that, Nigel.
What we start off with, as we just mentioned in the Purple phase, this is a public network, and we've got all our pioneers, that's 1,500 pioneers, working away on that network, and our other partners maturing their applications. In that Purple phase, we'll have all our other components ready and Alonzo'd. So this means our wallets, Daedalus. This means the Rosetta API for the exchanges. This means Explorer. This means GraphQL. This means hardware wallets, and all the other components that make up our Cardano architecture. Once we've got that into a reasonable state, we'll then move it to our red-white era, and this will be a new network where we can test the full scalability and the stability of our systems. And once we're satisfied in that area, we can then move it to our black network, which will be our final public network, where we can actually benchmark everything and make sure that we've got our mainnet candidate releases ready, and then we can launch it onto the mainnet.
So, Ger, Charles has framed this activity in terms of a kind of a 90-day period. Now, of course, nothing is guaranteed when you're rolling out complex software like this. But I think our level of predictability of the software rollout has improved. However, what are maybe some of the challenges and issues you can foresee slowing us down over the next 90 days?
So we learned a lot from Shelley. We went through the Pioneer Program. We went through a lot of community engagement, and we learned a lot about how to introduce big, huge pieces of software, big, huge changes to the market. We've taken a lot of those learnings, and we're applying them again in a more refined way now. We have better feedback loops. We have dedicated teams now that look at bugs and features, so those things are able to move much faster. So I think we have a better infrastructure overall at this point compared to last year. I think this year as well, if we look back to what we discussed earlier on, we've also got, commercial partners now who we're engaging to write actual real life use cases. And that's providing a lot of insights that the community are going to benefit in the weeks and months ahead. So I think all of those things, aside, there are things which could slow us down. There will be typical functional bugs like we had last year, but we got through them. Despite the fact we've done, huge amounts of testing, and I know, Tim, we've spoken about this in the past, all the testing that's been done there. You don't know for sure until you actually put out a real network. So that's one thing that we're kind of excited to see and to understand. And we have techniques and we have ideas about how we can improve it then as well. Plutus is built on kind of the precepts of Haskell, so it's a different way of programming things. So I think that there will be some early friction points that people need to learn. But once they get used to it, it'll be okay. We're very committed to making sure that there's a very large cohort of people who are familiar with Plutus by the time we launch, because we want it to be very successful. So those are the kind of challenges I think we're going to face. But cautiously optimistic is what I would say I am right now.
So thanks, Jer. Cautiously optimistic and a very busy 90 days ahead of us. Kevin, any last thoughts?
Well, it's going to be a challenging time for us, Tim, but a very exciting 90 days, because we'll finally get to deliver the Plutus interpreter, all the hard work that people have been putting into over what is now a very extended period of time, finally going to come to fruition. We'll have real users building on Plutus, developing their own DApps. So for everyone in the tech team, this is going to be a really, really exciting period.
And for everyone in the community too. Gentlemen, thank you very much. So, Aparna, a lot to take in there. Perhaps we just summarize a little bit for people.
Sure. I mean, the team did a great job of like kind of diving into each of these stages or colors with the rollout plan or the delivery plan, as you may hear it being called. But at the end of the day, guys, it's a 30, 60, 90-day plan, right? And what this actually means is you start off with Blue. It's a little smaller, more tight-knit. We start off with the basic functionality, bring a few pioneers, few SPOs on, and we start rolling there. And then we move on to White, where we now cast a little bit wider net, and we bring in more partners. And now you start running more performance benchmarks and things of that nature. Then White rolls into Purple, which is now fully public. We're talking about every pioneer. We're talking about most SPOs, if not all SPOs. We're talking about exchanges. And at this stage, we're really ready to go. And I know Nigel and the delivery team have spoken about the kind of the red stage and then the black stage, but those are really tiny stages. So it's really all about the purple. Once you get to the purple stage, we are pretty much close to the hard fork combinator event within that 30, 60, 90-day window, from start to Blue, ending with purple. So there you have it.
And of course, Aparna, the community, as ever, at the center really of our testing and rollout process, just as it was with the ITN and with the Shelley rollout as well. So we thought we'd go and meet a few of those partners. First of all, we'll start with the Plutus partners. These are the professional software development shops that are helping us with some initial use cases and testing. We'll also talk to Lars, who's been leading the Pioneer program, and we'll meet a couple of the pioneers themselves. So let's go to that now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cardano360. My name is Eric Zuleger. I am the Senior Content Editor at IOHK. Today on 360, we are thrilled to be joined by representatives from our Plutus Partner Program. So the Plutus Partner Program was established to work closely with professional development houses, and they were tasked to build early-stage Plutus code. Each company is building out initial use cases for wider testing, which will make Plutus a best-in-class experience for absolutely everyone. Let's take a look at some of my discussions with representatives from Metalamp, AltLabs, and ELEKS.
Hey guys, my name is Daria. I am a project manager in Metalamp.
Hi, my name is Stanislav. I'm a Haskell developer at Metalamp.
That's great. Thank you, guys. So to start out with, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about Metalamp? Can you give us a short description of your company and what kind of projects you love to work on?
Yeah, in terms of projects, we work with a variety of subject areas. In terms of backend, it is primarily fintech projects. So if we talk about the overall scale, it varies from different web services, like small web services, up to major, huge fintech projects on Haskell.
So, Stanislav, moving forward, how will your company benefit from a greater familiarity with programming in Plutus?
Moving forward, Metalamp will benefit with greater familiarity with Plutus. First of all, the most obvious benefit is to get offers from other companies which develop applications on the platform and which want to develop smart contracts application. And we are very excited to be part of this community and part of this fast developing world of smart contracts applications. A somewhat non-obvious benefit for us is being part of technological progress which has ability to change the world. And it's very inspiring to be close to the edge of innovations. I'm very excited to be able to participate in improving the financial and governance system.
Daria, you're moving forward with the Plutus Partner Program. Do you have any final thoughts for the audience at Cardano360?
Our hallmark, our corporate culture is that we are obsessed with continuous learning, with challenges, and that's the reason why we are so incredibly excited to work with you. And when we got the message from Andrea, like, welcome to the Plutus Partners Program, we were so happy when we got that. And to be honest, I can say that we're, like, in positive sense, we are kind of nerds and we love to work with very narrow specializations. And Plutus Partners Program is such an opportunity to work with that challenge. Also, it's an honor to work directly with the founders of Cardano, with Cardano blockchain. And so the guys who paved the way for this entire huge ecosystem. And I think it's an amazing chance for us to adopt this firsthand experience. And as Stanislav said, to implement this in our future projects. So I think it's a brilliant opportunity for us. And thank you very much, guys, for that.
I'm joined by a representative of one of our Plutus partners, Klaus Sonnenleiter, the CTO of ELEKS. So ELEKS is one of our partner companies who is helping us make sure that Plutus is a best-in-class experience for everybody who is working with our programming language. Klaus, welcome to Cardano360.
Pleasure to be here.
So you have been a part of the Plutus Partner Program for a little bit now, and we would love to hear a brief description of your company and a couple of the examples of projects that you've worked on before.
Certainly. ELEKS is, as Eastern European companies go, actually as old as it gets. It was founded a few weeks after the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991 and has started its life cycle back then as a company that was working on a orchestration and automation system for the Ukrainian national electrical grid, which is a piece of software that is still in use today and it's still maintained by ELEKS. That's actually the reason for the name of the company, ELEKS. And ELEKS has since been transformed into a very different company. Our main business today is as a technology services company for mostly American and Western European customers. We've been fairly early in looking at blockchain in general as a field that we thought was interesting for a subset of our customers who are worried about keeping their records tamper-proof, making sure that nothing in those records can be changed without being noticed, and to some extent also automating financial transactions through that system, which is also why we were very interested in Plutus and in Cardano. And some of the work we've done in that field in the past includes actually some very high-profile projects, which I cannot describe in detail, but I can give some hints. We've done one project that is all about tamper-proofing a document store, where the documents are of very high financial sensitivity, so I can't name the name of the company. I can't name any more of the details, but it was one of the probably most challenging projects in the blockchain field, done with Hyperledger. We originally started with some Ethereum work, seeing if that could fit, turned to Hyperledger instead, and built that whole file system up with the help of that.
Can you tell us from your end what the experience has been like with working with Plutus Code?
The experience when we were working with Plutus was actually quite interesting. We of course expected quite a steep learning curve and having to get used to an entirely new environment. And that is certainly true and turned out exactly that way. But what we found was that when we were going through the video lessons and attending the live sessions, the Q&A sessions, and then also utilizing the resources we found in the self-help forums and the channels, all of that really helped us with that learning curve and got us to where we needed to be very quickly. That was very impressive.
So moving forward, how will ELEKS benefit from greater familiarity with Plutus?
It's an interesting question. When we were looking at how ELEKS would utilize all the things that we find in Plutus, the first thing that we paid attention to was we have a pretty good amount of customers in spaces that are benefiting from securing their records, from making them transaction safe, and from automating transactions with less and less manual input. And that is precisely where we see the role of Plutus for our customer base, where we think utilizing Plutus on a larger scale, once, of course, we get a little bit more familiar with it, we will be able to shorten the cycles for such products because a lot of the needed functionality is to some degree templated. We can build on a trusted environment rather than having to build it up from scratch every single time ourselves.
At AltLabs, we're now a small group of individuals. Our main focus is to contribute and work with distributed systems, mainly with distributed ledgers and the blockchain. And we're strong believers in decentralization and distributed systems in general. So far, we had some experience with Ethereum, but I was mostly involved with the Filecoin, which is a distributed storage protocol. And that's the most recent project we've been working on, is managing an infrastructure that makes possible the distributed storage. Working with Plutus Code was a quite satisfying experience, and the provided educational material in the form of videos was also very valuable asset, and the possibility to communicate directly with the other participants and IOHK members through channels such as Discord, email, and live Q&A sessions was most certainly of great value. And this helps us tremendously to get a deeper understanding of the Plutus smart contracts and how the UTXO works, so that we can benefit the future implementations of it. AltLabs will greatly benefit from this training provided by the IOHK, and we want to get a more broader picture of the Plutus smart contracts and how native tokens are minted, and in general a deep understanding of the mechanics of distributed ledgers, and also the UTXO model, which we will most certainly use in the near future projects.
A big thank you to everybody from ELEKS, from Metalamp, and from AltLabs. Thank you so much for joining us on 360 and for being a part of the Plutus Partner Program. If you want to know more about the Plutus Partner Program or what they're building, then make sure you hit like and subscribe, and we'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening in the IOHK universe.
So, Lars, it's been a little over a month now since we kicked off the Plutus Pioneers program. How's it all going?
It's actually going very well. So I think we accepted more than 1,600 students into the class, and there are weekly lectures. Actually, we are now in week 7. So I'm just very busy working on the 7th lecture that will be released tomorrow. We have a weekly Q&A sessions. So where the students can ask me questions. We do that on Zoom. And then we have our Discord server, which is very active, and there are lots of discussions going on, lots of questions asked. And that is very nice for me, actually, because I don't have to answer every single question, because the students are very supportive of each other. So a lot of the questions that are being asked are answered by the students themselves. So it's actually really going great. I'm very happy about how the course is going.
So it certainly seems like a lot of the pioneers are enjoying themselves and learning a lot along the way. What are some of your observations of the group of people you've got working on the program?
I'm very happy how enthusiastic everybody is. Right in the beginning, in the first lecture, I warned everybody that it won't be easy, because Plutus is still a bit rough around the edges, and it's quite difficult, some of the things. And I was very impressed how they just got into it, and with a lot of enthusiasm dove in and followed the lectures and try out things. So that's great. And we have seen some great contributions. So they write their own tutorials, they produce their own videos that some comment on my lectures. And we even saw some technical help for Plutus itself. So some issues were found, some bugs were found, and issues were raised. And in some cases, there were even pull requests. So the students not only found problems, they even provided the solution that the Plutus team could then just take and integrate into the code.
So yes, of course, Lars, this is not just about learning, it's also about the testing process and helping the rollout of Alonzo. Perhaps you can just tell us a bit more about how the pioneers are helping in that regard.
In the beginning of the course, the pioneers already found some issues with Plutus, so they are definitely helping us testing already. And now with the Alonzo testnet, that of course will continue, and we will pick some of the students that have contributed most, and we were very impressed about their contributions and their activity on the forum, to help us in this very early stage of the testnet to test it, and to also provide some tutorials and documentation for the time when all the pioneers can join.
So I think we should probably hear a little bit maybe from some of our pioneers right now. So let's run that clip now.
So my background is in software. I'm a software developer. I'm a .NET developer at my day job, Pioneer at night. Most of what I do now is providing remote solutions for the at-home workforce. And what I hope to gain from the Pioneer program is some insights into Cardano's unique approach to blockchain technology, most specifically with smart contracts. My experience being a Plutus Pioneer has been really fun. So 2 days out of the week, we'll have our lectures and or Q&As. Those last about an hour to two. And then the 4 days out of the week, I'll divide my time across learning Haskell, which is like a really cool and fun programming language. And then we'll do some community help. I'll jump in, try to help another pioneer whenever I have the opportunity, or reach out for help whenever I have somebody to peer review my work, as well as doing the homeworks themselves. I needed help setting up my localized environment because I'd never used AGIX or Cabal before. So I knew I was missing a step in my setup, and I reached out and somebody helped me. And I was like, well, that was awesome to have somebody to reach out to me. And they told me they were also a pioneer. So I've made it my mission to try to help as many pioneers as I can as well. So I contribute to the community docs. I've made pull requests into the Plutus Playground, and I've helped over a dozen pioneers set up their local environments. I even challenged myself to grab like my Mac, my Linux machine, and my Windows machine and set them all up and install Docker so that any unique situation somebody runs into, I can at least lend a hand. There's a lot to be impressed by in the Plutus Pioneer program. It's everything from the code, the structure of the classes, the courses. I was most surprised and had the most delight in creating my first tokenized system. So making like NFTs or fungible tokens, and how easy that was. But moreover than that, the entire community has been so welcoming and talkative, and they communicate amongst each other. And that has been really exciting and has impressed me to no end. The biggest challenge for me was having to learn Haskell in tandem with the Plutus Pioneer program. I knew that it used Haskell ahead of time. I picked up as many resources as I can to consume as many resources as I can to learn Haskell. And it's absolutely incredible. It's a really fun programming language. And after just a few weeks of practicing both, I've gotten the hang of it just fine. Additionally, though, one of the challenges I saw with the community was actually setting up localized environments. And so I made it, again, my mission to reach out and make sure as many people as possible can have a smooth transition in. Even though I'm a pioneer, I like to contribute where I can. After I finish the Plutus Pioneer Program, I plan to contribute to the community documentation, educating some of my peers that have like minds to my own or just starting off in this space, jumping into other projects to see what other pioneers have come up with, and hopefully helping review some of their work. The lens in which I view blockchain, in particular Cardano, has evolved since the first day I began the Pioneer Program. I thought it would be really cool just to learn how to make tokens or NFTs, or help some of my friends who are artists make NFTs, introducing them to blockchain technology. But I could check that box on week 4. Like, I already learned how to do all of that. So there's a 10-week program with 6 more weeks to go. My guess is I'll choose a more ambitious goal at the end, or just contribute to somebody else who has just a really cool idea. If you're thinking about joining the Plutus Pioneer Program, you don't have to wait till the next signups. You can start today. There's tons of community boards. We have a Stack exchange. You can jump into the Slack channel. We have an incredibly active community you can reach out to. All of the original videos are even available on YouTube, so you can see what it was like the first time through the Pioneer Program. You can even start picking up and learning Haskell. Some of the greater resources for that would be like Learn New Haskell for Greater Good. I put in a couple hours on Learn New Haskell every day during the program, and by the time I got to the types section, I had everything in my tool belt I needed to tackle the program.
Hello, my name is Mattias Putz. I'm from Germany. So my general background is that I'm mostly in IoT background programming, but I was addicted to Haskell and functional programming for a very long time already. And so when I looked into finding out about big projects which are written in Haskell, I stumbled very fast about Cardano, and then the step to Plutus was a very, very small one. So my experience in the Plutus Pioneer Program so far was very amazing, because there are a lot of different peoples with different skills and different backgrounds, and all of them come together and want to learn Plutus. And that's very amazing, because they have a different way of thinking and they have a different background. And it helps a lot to work with them and think with them and brainstorm with them, because then you can challenge your own ideas and also correct your own understanding. And this is very, very helpful. So what have impressed me the most about Plutus so far is probably when Lars was explaining lecture number 6 about the end-to-end application of an oracle done on the Cardano blockchain. This was very impressive, because it's already everything there. And he showed us how you can do a full smart contract on the Cardano blockchain. And the only missing thing is connect an UI, make it nice, and make it usable from customers, users. And that's it. And that is very, very impressive. So when I finished the Plutus Pioneer Program, what I want to do with my expertise is use it, apply it, because otherwise you will forget about it. And hopefully there will be some connections with other pioneers or with other people who are also connected to the Plutus Pioneer Program. And maybe we can do something together and make a big win-win for all of us. Or maybe I start my own idea. I've already some, for sure. And maybe realize something of this. So my advice for any other Plutus pioneers who want to join the program would be that you should learn some Haskell in advance. It not only gives you some advance in your general day-to-day programming, because it's a nice language and it has nice concepts, but also for the Pioneers program, because then you can focus more on blockchain programming, which is very important and challenging in itself. And it also gives you maybe some spare time to do your own experiments during the program, which helps you a lot, because to change your own ideas and to maybe break stuff within Plutus is very helpful in improving your understanding of all of this.
So thanks to everybody who contributed to that. Good to hear some news from the front. So Lars, just to wrap things up, of course, not everybody was able to join the Pioneer Program in this first cohort, but I understand we will be running some future courses. Perhaps you can give us a bit of an update there.
Yes, and some people were quite disappointed that they weren't picked for the first group of the program. And we didn't, of course, do that to be mean or anything. It was just that we felt, given their previous programming experience, or according to what they told us about themselves, that it would be better for them to maybe spend some more time learning a bit of Haskell first, things like that. But we did open up the lectures to everybody, so they are publicly available on YouTube. So a lot of people have actually watched the lectures without being part of the course. I believe some of the lectures have more than 10,000 views by now. But we will, of course, also repeat the course. So probably sometime later in the summer, we will start a second group, and eventually we will even turn it into a continuous thing so that people can basically start the course whenever they please. So we will have several iterations, one coming soon, where people that missed out the first time get the chance to do the course. And of course, we will update the content. I mean, Plutus is still evolving. Even now in the course, I think in the third lecture, so some of the code I presented in the first lecture was not working anymore and needed to be updated. So we will completely rework the lectures so that it's always up to date with the current state of Plutus.
Well, look, Lars, thank you very much. I'm sure everybody will join me, and thank you for all the hard work you're doing on this. Good luck with the testnet. Of course, good luck to all our pioneers as well. And if you want to become a pioneer in that next cohort, make sure you stay close to our social channels, because we'll be sure to let you know as soon as there's a fresh entry. So thank you, Lars, very much.
Thank you very much, Tim.
So that's the latest on Alonzo. And don't forget to tune into our mid-month updates, where we'll bring you the latest news on the journey to Alonzo. So what's next, Aparna?
All right. So, Tim, we've actually got something on Marlowe coming up. And I just wanted to say, with the Plutus Pioneers and the Plutus Partners and everything that we're doing around Alonzo, our project is heavily community-based. I think everybody kind of gets that sense for how much we involve our community. And one of the things around community is it's great to bring them into the process, but it's also great for us to build infrastructure that's consumer-facing for expanding upon that community. And that is what's so exciting about Marlowe. It is a consumer-facing product, which means UX first, which means we're talking about how we're going to interact with a group of people that may not be developer savvy or may not be tech savvy, or for that matter, may not even be crypto savvy coming into the community. And so I really am looking forward to the launch of the prototype and what we're doing with Marlowe. And with that, we have David giving us a quick explainer on what Marlowe is. And then we bring Simon and Shruti on to talk about their prototype and the webinar series and everything that's going on in the Marlowe world.
Let's talk about Marlowe. It's something you might have heard about here and there, but I don't really think that people understand how important Marlowe will be for the future of smart contracts and Cardano. In finance, there are common types of financial agreements that happen all the time, such as escrow, swaps, CFDs, and various types of bonds. And for the most part, these services are carried out by third parties that charge hefty fees, or in some cases, percentages of the funds involved to execute these services. But we're heading into the future, and we can leverage blockchain technology to do the heavy lifting. Blockchains are immutable, meaning once the info has been input, it can't be changed. This is the ideal condition for anything to do with financial contracts, because you certainly don't want people changing things that have already been agreed upon, especially if the other party doesn't know. And when it comes to security, Cardano is the most secure proof-of-stake blockchain in the world. But we can do even better than just the security that blockchain technology offers. And that's where Marlowe comes into play. Marlowe is a DSL, which stands for Domain-Specific Language. And that means Marlowe is a language created specifically to handle financial contracts like the ones I mentioned at the start of this video. This makes it a special purpose coding language, written in the language of finance rather than a general purpose language, which means it's easier to read, write, and understand. It's also safer. Some errors are impossible to write based on the way the language has been written, and we can completely analyze contract behavior without having to run a contract. Okay, so Marlowe is a coding language native to Cardano, but it's also a suite of products. And some of those products are intended for developers and some for the everyday user. So let's take a look at both sides, starting with the products for the everyday user. Marlowe's first iteration will be a browser-based application, which will give you access to the Marlowe suite, which includes Marlowe Library. And this is where you can find ready-to-use contract templates from an open source library. This will give anyone the ability to use all those financial agreements I mentioned previously and more by simply selecting one of the agreements from the library of verified smart contracts and then filling in your information. And for the developers, Marlowe was built with accessibility in mind. You can use either JavaScript or Haskell to build Marlowe contracts, or you can write in the native language of Marlowe itself. And if you're new to coding, you can take it one step further and use an innovative open source tool known as Blockly, which allows you to build financial smart contracts by simply dragging and dropping different options into place. This sort of accessibility opens the door to a much wider audience of potential developers, and now people with extensive knowledge in finance but little in coding can bring their expertise to the blockchain and evolve the space that is DeFi. This is really quite a big deal when you take a moment to think about the billions of people that don't currently have access to these types of tools, and will be able to have access to them no matter where they live in the world as long as they have access to internet. Consider those people that have no identity and no access to banking. Marlowe is able to give them access to credit and banking instruments with just internet access. Marlowe is one step closer to bringing peer-to-peer services to the world and eliminating unnecessary third parties. And this is in line with Cardano's mission for financial inclusion. Marlowe's aim is to democratize finance and make it accessible to everyone.
So welcoming Simon and Shruti from the Marlowe team back onto the show. It's been a couple of months now, maybe 2-3 months now, and there's been a lot of progress. So for the audience, Marlowe is our domain-specific language for financial contracts. And I just wanted to hear from you guys as to what's going on with the project, just a general update on Marlowe.
Sounds good. Yeah, like you mentioned, Aparna, Marlowe is a domain-specific language on top of which several products live. And one of the products that we're going to be looking into today is Marlowe Run. Marlowe Run essentially is a product that enables seamless, intuitive, as well as a more straightforward interaction with financial agreements so that users are able to run their own financial agreements in a peer-to-peer fashion on the blockchain. So what we are exploring here is a prototype of the Marlowe Run. So that's what we've been working on building. And that is something that we can look into today. We're really focusing this on user experience and user friendliness because we understand that not everybody knows how to build smart contracts and not everyone understands the logic behind constructing a contract, for example, even a legal contract. So we are really focusing this on user experience. And for that reason, what we've also been doing and working on is we've constructed a whole array of off-the-shelf financial contracts that we're also going to be providing with this prototype.
So this is really a consumer-grade smart contract application. So perhaps you can just tell us a little bit more about some of the work, the specific UX and UI work that's gone into that.
Thanks, Tim. So yeah, what we've been doing with Marlowe Run is build the product right from the base up. We looked at the user journey through creating, setting up, distributing, and running with a contract. And that's a contract that's distributed, just to make it clear. This will be a contract that Aparna, Tim, and Shruti could be running together. Aparna from her browser, Tim from his browser, Shruti from her browser. So setting up that process and then allowing people to run from their laptop or from a mobile, because we've done mobile first design here. That seems to be the right way to make sure you get the best design possible. So mobile first design of the user experience and the user journey through interacting with a contract. And I'll be showing you a demo in a few seconds time, but that will give you a clearer picture. But I think just saying we've done user-centered design, that's been the hallmark of what we've done. And this will be, it's a prototype at the moment, but what you will see in the demo will be exactly what you'll see when you run with a contract on the Cardano blockchain, when we release that later in the year.
Well, Simon, I think we need to see that. So let's run that clip now.
Marlowe Run runs in the browser, and what it does is provide the end user interaction with contracts running on the blockchain. For the moment, we're simulating that blockchain inside the browser, but eventually this will be the tool you'll use to run contracts for real on Cardano. Now, to interact with the contract, your wallet needs to be involved to control your signature and to control your assets. So we link up Marlowe Run with a wallet. Let's link it up with Shruti's wallet. So in this window, we see the world from Shruti's perspective. And let's open up another window and link in that window the world with Charles's perspective. And at the moment, neither of them has any contracts running. They have a blank space there. But let's start a contract up. Let's set up a zero coupon bond, which is a fancy name for a loan. And let's suppose that Shruti is making a loan to Charles. She's the investor. He's the issuer of the bond. And Charles wants to borrow 1 ADA from Shruti. And he's promised to pay back 1.1 ADA. So we've set it up, we've said who the issuer and investor are, we've said what the price and the eventual value will be, and we're now going to create the contract. In order to do that, we have to make a payment of 30 Lovelace to get the contract started. So let's pay, and we're asked to approve that, and the payment goes through. And you can see now in Shruti's Marlowe Run, we've got the zero coupon bond running. But also, if you look at Charles's view of the world, it's running there too for him. Let's see what it looks like for him. We're at the first step, and it's saying it's waiting for something from the investor, who is Shruti. So let's see what's happening in her view. Yes, she's asked to make a deposit. So let's click on that to make the deposit and click to confirm with a fee of 10 Lovelace and make that deposit. And then you can see her view has changed. Now she's waiting for the issuer to pay her back. And hey ho, we look in Charles's view, which is incidentally the mobile view of Marlowe Run. He's asked to pay his 1.1 ADA. Let's make him do that now. And he'll also have to pay a 10 Lovelace transaction fee. And let's make that deposit. And you see now from both their perspectives, that loan is completed. So you can see the history of what's gone on. You can see at particular points the balances that the contract holds. And in fact, we can, if we close that, we can see the history of all the contracts that that Shruti has taken part in. So I think that pretty much covers the basics of what you get from Marlowe Run. It's a intuitive interface to a contract running on the blockchain, and you see that each participant in the contract gets their view of the contract in real time, updated from what's, in this case, in the browser, but eventually what's on the blockchain.
Wow, that's pretty amazing work, Simon and Shruti. You know, one thing I love about Marlowe and the portfolio of the Cardano ecosystem products is that it is consumer facing, like Tim said, and we do focus on that user experience first. So Shruti, talk to us about the process the team has kind of used in being able to bring the feedback in, iterate, and put it out, and how this has kind of changed us from just big bang taking a product and putting it out there and looking at prototypes first type of a product development process.
Absolutely. I think that the development strategy as well as the design process, typically the engineering design process, is extremely important in terms of iterating as well as developing a product that actually suits users very well. You know, we adopt a humble approach in the sense that we understand that we don't have the all of the information that our users are looking for and the kind of usage patterns that they're most familiar with. So what we're looking to do is we're planning to run a Marlowe Pioneer testing program where we want to give a sneak peek of this product to a few sets of users, and then they will be able to test out the product and give us their feedback. And so that we'll be able to incorporate that into our design process. And then in the future design sprints, we'll be able to design and really tailor the product according to our users' wants and needs.
And Simon, I also understand that this week we announced a new webinar series. Perhaps we can hear a little more about that.
That's right. What we're doing in the webinar is we want to start from basics, just talk about the basics of finance and how those move onto computer and onto blockchain. So we're beginning that with Willy Brammert, who's from the Actors Foundation, and then Shruti will bring things in a bit and explain how that migrates into what we've been thinking about with Marlowe, and then I'll talk in more detail about how we designed Marlowe, the things we wanted to design in from the start. Really what we want to do there is to ensure that we can give people as much assurance that their contracts behave as they should, behave well, built into the tool. So that's how we'll conclude. And we're going to be running further webinars later in the year to pick up some of those themes.
So lots of great opportunities to get to know Marlowe a little bit better. And remember, there's lots of resources already out there, including Simon's lecture series that you might want to check out. And we'll drop the webinar link in the show notes below. Simon, Shruti, thank you very much. So if you're not subscribed already to this channel, please make sure you do. Click on the bell to get alerts whenever a new video goes live. And please give us a like just to get that algorithm working.
My name is Eric Zuleger, Senior Content Editor, and I am thrilled to be joined by Dor Garbash, the man who's leading the way with Project Catalyst to on-chain governance on Cardano. Welcome back to 360, Dor.
Hello. Good to be here.
So it has been a month since last we talked. What has been happening with Project Catalyst since last month?
This has been an amazing month for Catalyst. I want to share a few statistics about the growth we've experienced this month. Bottom line, our funded proposals bringing results. We have 314 developers, 132 entrepreneurs, 6 dApps in the air. All these people were attracted thanks to the effort of our funded proposals from Fund 2 and Fund 3, and they're just getting started. We had the largest assessment round to date, a new record. 160 individuals submitted 1,800 thoughtful assessments about proposals in Fund 5. Very impressive. We reached 25,000 participants in ID Scale. If we continue on this rate, we're going to get to 100,000 people by the end of the year. We added Euro mobile support, and hardware wallet integration is almost ready. For Fund 5, expect support for those of you using Ledger. And finally, we've been scaling up the system to handle tens of thousands of voters to deal with this growth that we're having.
That is incredible, Dor. So can you catch us up on some of the most exciting themes that you're seeing come up in each innovation round?
So some of the most exciting themes we're seeing right now is the rise of the challenges that were voted in by the community. So we have the Africa Growth Challenge and the DeFi Challenge, and both of them are on fire with lots of really great proposals set up for a vote. We have community advisors taking leadership. They're building tools and processes by themselves and really inspiring us. And also we're seeing the Catalyst coordinator, that's the accelerator for all the funded proposals in Catalyst, really taking off, where you have dozens of funded teams that are starting to meet and collaborate and form bridges. So I would say the biggest themes are growth and autonomy.
We've seen a lot of growth since the very beginning with Project Catalyst. What are some of the most important ways that it's advanced?
Catalyst have seen a lot of growth. The most important ways that it has advanced, first of all, inclusivity. Voting is almost free. You only need one transaction fee to register to vote. And if you have a balance of 500 ADA or more, you can participate. So almost everybody in the network can participate now in voting. And we're establishing ourselves as the largest decentralized innovation fund in the world, as continued to scale up. And we're seeing that it's not a fad. Every fund, more engagement, more people, more energy. This is real. This is sustainable. So for those at home watching and maybe curious, inspired to learn more about Catalyst, there's a very simple step for you to continue in this journey. Open your Telegram. There's a channel called Cardano Catalyst Announcements, and subscribe to it. It's very informative. It's going to give you all the right information about when voting starts, how to register to vote, when proposal submission begins, how to become advisor. Really, really interesting stuff. We want you to be looped in. We want you to take part. So join us. Looking forward to having you.
So lots of excitement for the ERC20 converter partner out there in the community. Perhaps you just say a little bit more about the significance of this project.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, from a commercial angle, this is one of the most important projects that we do have right now, because this becomes a really easy bridge to get onto Cardano. So Singularity, of course, is the angel customer here. We are working with them to ensure that this is a success, and doing that with Francisco and with Bart and with a few others from our team. But there are many more that are going to follow. So I do know that this is something that we're heavily looking into. It helps with the case of interoperability on Cardano, as well as with expanding the Cardano ecosystem from a utility perspective and also from the number of organizations that can put their tokens onto the chain. So very exciting project with the ERC20 converter.
So yes, indeed, an important and exciting relationship with SingularityNET. And of course, we wanted to hear a little bit more. So we asked the guys to give us a little bit of an update.
So we have been working very hard with SingularityNET to migrate SingularityNET from Ethereum to Cardano. The first phase consists of migrating their token, and for that we have created a new token called AGIX. The second phase also is going to achieve the migration of the dApp from Ethereum to Cardano. So the marketplace for artificial intelligence, in which we can empower a lot of people and give access and democratize and decentralize the access to artificial intelligence, will be done with extra computational power of Cardano. This will also speed up the transactions, lower the transaction cost, and allow users to migrate and use their tokens in a native way using the advantage of the ledger of Cardano. So, Jan, why is SingularityNET so enthusiastic about having AGI on Cardano?
That's a very good question. We are enthusiastic. We are really enthusiastic, and for a number of reasons. Some of them, and a lot of them, are technical reasons. Obviously, the gas fees from Ethereum play a big role at this moment. It's the first thing what comes to mind, but not the most important one. Other things are speed. I think reliability is a main issue there. And last but not least, also your foundation in Plutus, which means a whole lot to us. It's a verifiable programming language that enables us to program our parts, our components, like the marketplace, but more importantly, the DSL. And I'll come back to that a little bit later, in a way that we can really rely on it being secure. And that's really important because we are counting in the future on having trillions and trillions of API calls. And it will not just be API calls from point to point, it will also be API calls from one AI server to another, to yet another, etc. It will be a complete dynamic environment of API calls. And of course, you have to be very, very, very sure that the communications between all these components are reliable and being done as you want it to be done. And that is where Plutus comes in, which is a natural companion for us to be programming our DSL in. And DSL stands for domain-specific language, and it's the language that we are constructing right now to enable different AIs to speak to each other. So this is at the core of SingularityNET and what we aim to be. And therefore, we are super thrilled to have Cardano as a partner and as a technology platform to enable us to fulfill these promises. And of course, this is the technical part. There's also another part which is about your community. You have a great community of people, and we like to be involved with them. We like them to give feedback, and we like to get working on joint projects where we can both leverage the Cardano blockchain and the SingularityNET AI to create wonderful functionality of the future. So in a nutshell, large nutshell, that is why we are so thrilled about our cooperation.
And what are the projects ready to be migrated from Ethereum to Cardano? What is the first point to start?
Well, the first thing, of course, we are talking today about the converter. So the way to convert AGI tokens on Ethereum to AGI tokens on Cardano, which hopefully in the future will live as AGIX, as just one ticker and one thing. But that's just the first step. Using the Plutus language, we will also be deploying all other components of our platform, including the marketplace, to Cardano. And like I mentioned, also the DSL is a very important and crucial thing, which will not be deployed in the coming months. That will take more time, but to have Plutus there is crucial for the development of it. So Having discussed this, Francisco, maybe you can explain a little bit more about the first step in this journey, which is actually enabling the conversion of AGI on Ethereum to AGI on Cardano and back. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, of course. So the first step is migrating the token from Ethereum to Cardano and also allowing the users to migrate back from Cardano to Ethereum. So we have designed and created this tool called the ERC20 converter, in which we allow the users to lock the tokens on Ethereum and mint the tokens on Cardano. So they have a one-to-one peg and they can take the tokens from one blockchain to the other one. Also, they will be able to burn the tokens they have in Cardano and get the tokens back on Ethereum so they can migrate in both ways.
Yes, and that back and forth burning and minting, so not only being able to go from Ethereum to Cardano, but also backwards should you want that. That is very important for us and for you also, I suppose, to enable full flexibility and dynamics for our audience. So that is the thing we need to accomplish before we can fully port to Cardano. So, Francisco, do you have any idea when this converter will be released?
Yes. First, we will start by releasing the Ethereum to Cardano bridge, only the way to migrate from Ethereum to Cardano, in June. And the other way of the bridge and other parts are also tied with Alonzo hard fork and Plutus. So we are working on that and you have to stay tuned for other updates.
Will there be costs involved for the users to transact, to exchange their tokens from one blockchain to another?
The SingularityNET is going to cover all of the costs of the Cardano transaction cost. But the user will have to cover the cost for locking and withdrawing the tokens on Ethereum. So SingularityNET DAO will cover the Cardano cost, and the user will have to pay for the Ethereum gas fees.
I guess an important aspect of this bridge is that because apart from transaction costs, which are not unsubstantial on Ethereum right now, but that might change as well, hopefully. Making sure that there is this one-on-one port also makes sure that the prices of AGIX on both blockchains will stay at the same level, right?
Right. That will allow users to migrate back and forward and also to keep the price of the token equal in both places. So, Jan, also, can you tell us how all of this relates to the hard fork of the AGI token and what is this new token you have designed?
Yes, so how the converter relates to the hard fork works as follows. Our current contract on Ethereum has a limit of 1 billion tokens, which makes a lot of sense. But the moment we start exchanging with Cardano, and suppose there are AGIX on Cardano which need to be transferred to Ethereum, then at that moment, extra AGI on Ethereum needs to be minted, while Ethereum on Cardano needs to be burned. So actually there will be, even if it's temporary, and even if it's going back and forth, and even if the total supply on Ethereum will not increase, there has to be utility to mint extra tokens. And that simply wasn't possible in the old contract. So while the total cap of tokens remains the same, it's 1 billion on Ethereum and also 1 billion on Cardano, but only in 91 years in a decreasing schedule, so very, very slowly, step by step. We do need the functionality to mint additional tokens on Ethereum to enable this bridge, basically.
Thank you, Jan, for being with us. And, well, it is very interesting. Let's see how the road works for us.
Yeah, so I think it's important to tell the users that they will be able to use this bridge, and it's not a one-time operation. They can use it as often as they want, and it will allow them flexibility to move backwards and forwards between change, making AGIX really a cross-chain token, and that's the whole idea.
Thank you very much. That's really exciting, Jan. And I hope we keep in touch.
Thank you, Francisco. I'm sure we will get in touch and there will be many opportunities for us to collaborate, just as our communities will collaborate on these wonderful projects that are to come.
So some great updates there, of course. And Lando, I'm sure people want to see how the ERC20 converter is looking. And I understand we have a demo to share with people.
Absolutely. We have recorded a demo and let's take a look. Before we start, you have to download the testnet version of your Daedalus wallet and install the MetaMask extension in your browser. Also, you will need to get into SingularityNET faucet and into Ether faucet to get your tokens to do the migration. This tool will be first released in the testnet, in which we will try different features before releasing it into the mainnet later. You can go to the developers portal, in which you will find all of the links to the downloads and to the faucets, and also a full documentation on how to use this tool. So let's start. First of all, you have to configure your MetaMask wallet into the Koban test network from this dropdown. And then you can connect your wallet. If you click in Connect, it will prompt you the confirmation to connect your MetaMask wallet. And then you have to connect also your Cardano wallet. You have to go to the testnet version of Daedalus and copy one of the addresses you can find into this section. After pasting and saving your wallet, you will see that everything is configured and we can now migrate our tokens from Ethereum to Cardano. Here I have 150 tokens I got from the faucet. I can click and select, and I can migrate, for example, 50 tokens. After clicking in Convert, I will get a prompt to confirm the migration using MetaMask. And I get this model in which I can see that the conversion is being processed. I can go to the transaction sections to see how the conversion is being processed. And if I wait for a few seconds, I will see that both transactions will be confirmed in Ethereum and on Cardano. So let's wait. Now that both transactions have been processed, I can see the transaction ID of the transactions on Ethereum and on Cardano. If I click in this link, I can see the transaction on Etherscan. And if I click in this second link, I can see the transaction on the Cardano Blockchain Explorer.
So Lando, exciting stuff there. Can you tell us a little bit more? When can we expect to see this land on the testnet?
You can expect to see this on the testnet in June, and stay tuned for more updates for the mainnet.
And more from SingularityNET soon. In fact, very soon. Stick around till the end of the show to find out more. Another partnership, Wolfram. Aparna, you met with the guys earlier today.
Yes, Tim. So Wolfram, we brought them on a few months ago, right? We were working with their blockchains labs portion on a couple of different projects commercially and within the project itself. But more recently, we're looking at them and partnering with them on some other concepts that we'll probably be talking about sometime in the future. However, I brought on Christian from Wolfram. He's an interesting guy. You know, he's a technologist, but he's also an artist, and he's got some really good understanding of the NFT space and how that can apply to something so sciencey, if that's a word, like a Wolfram universe or a computational automata. I mean, you guys have to go check out their website. I'm still learning a little bit on how to get used to some of the terminology that they've come up with. But once you check it out, it's actually really cool. And they were bridging that concept of art, science, and technology. So catching up with them was really good. And I think the community will enjoy that piece on what Christian has to say. Welcoming Wolfram as a partner showcase back onto 360. Wolfram has been working with us on a couple of different projects within the space, but this segment's really more to update the audience on what they've been up to and also introduce a new face, Christian. So Christian, thank you for joining us. And I have heard that you're not only a technical guy, but you're also an artist. So why don't you tell us a little more?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for inviting me. It's really interesting and very fun to work with you and your team. I really mean that. And so I'm a director of connectivity at Wolfram Blockchain Labs. I have a physics background, and well, I'm technically an artist because I have produced some professional artistic work. I don't see myself as an artist, but more as a computational explorer. which is not a term I invented. Stephen Wolfram wrote a book about adventures of a computational explorer, so I can relate to that concept. So by using computers, in particular, all the amazing Wolfram technology I have access to, what I like is to explore some art concepts like generative art. So one thing I like to do is like take data and reinterpret that data or reimagine that data as visuals or audio. Like I like using blockchain data, for instance, using our technology. So for example, last year I worked with a group of very talented artists to create a 200 square meter for our American public. I don't know that number in feet, but according to Wolfram Alpha, that's around the size of a single tennis court. So yeah. So yeah, we created an interactive art installation for the Contemporary Arts Museum in Lima, Peru, where I live, with sounds, visuals, and movable sculptures. Actually, this one is one of the sculptures. Yeah, I have the piece here at home. So there were 18 of these, and I use Wolfram language to create many parts of that. So yeah, that's a bit of my background related to art and technology.
Christian, that's fascinating. I mean, just looking at that sculpture, is the first thing I saw. I was like, that's got to be one of those things, because it looks very much like the models that you create when you showed me the Wolfram language simulator. So that's pretty amazing.
It's a group effort. I was not the only one doing this, but
that's awesome. So you know what? Another great area where kind of technology and art has been meeting recently is in the space of non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, right? So what are your thoughts on this area, and how is Wolfram going to be a part of this?
So I've been exploring the NFT space myself, like creating some original NFTs or minting some of my previous artworks, like stuff I post on Instagram, using Wolfram tech. And so what I find very, very interesting in this space is how this technology is opening a new, not only an economic model, but also a business and conceptual model to a new generation of people who can participate in different ways to shape this ecosystem by using stuff like governance tokens, for example. So while NFTs, I think, are big now in the art context, I believe we'll see more use cases in other areas. It's just that probably like virtual art was maybe more accessible to people, especially during the pandemic. So exploring this space is something we are doing with Wolfram technology. For example, with very small pieces of code, you can generate very cool stuff like cellular automata. And we also have the Wolfram Physics project, where collaborators there are producing what we call universes with small pieces of code, and you get this amazing, not only visual stuff, but very interesting conceptual stuff. So small is a very important word, I think, here, because storage of NFT data or metadata can be very expensive in blockchain. So storing small pieces of code that allows you to generate and interact with your NFTs is something possible with Wolfram languages, and we are exploring that. So, and Cardano is a pretty cool platform for this, because you guys are working on supporting this natively, right? And having these sort of simple standards is something that we really need in the blockchain space to integrate the decentralized feature with other technologies. And yeah, and since we focus a lot at Wolfram on automating stuff, like by using our functions, and in particular the blockchain functions that connect our language to the Cardano blockchain, it will be very easy to automate all this process of creating and interacting with NFTs and and Cardano.
Yes, thank you for that. We do have a great layer one solution for NFTs, and our community has been so active in participating here. And then we would love to see your projects definitely as NFTs on our blockchain as well. And that's just fascinating stuff. So it's really not only art and technology. In this case, it's art/science and technology, which makes it really, really cool, Christian. So it's a wonderful concept. So just wrapping up this conversation a little bit, what's next in the schedule for Wolfram? Can you share a little bit more with our audience?
Well, we have a lot of things coming up. Actually, this week we have a distributed consensus conference that's on Wednesday. So just Google Wolfram distributed consensus and apply, or just join the conference. And yeah, now that you mentioned the Cardano communities, that's something very interesting because your community is huge compared to other blockchains, right? So we are exploring the idea of doing stuff like NFT auctions with Cardano, and yeah, and more. I think more use cases of NFTs we'll see in the future. Yeah, and well, we have the Cardano integration coming soon. We have some prototypes I can use, but they're not public yet. But they are cool. So uh, yeah, we expect to see a lot of movement in this space from our side.
Yes, and for the audience, more to come on that. We on the Wolfram auction and what they're doing there. We'll keep the audience appraised on their very cool concept of the art science meets technology angle with their NFTs that they're looking to create on the chain, and we'll share some more in the next month. So thank you, Christian. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
So thank you, Christian, for that. Now, alongside the Alonzo testnet and the ERC20 converter testnet, there's another piece of strategic infrastructure we're building out over the summer, and that's our P2P testnets. So let's go over to Kevin to find out more. Kevin, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. So the P2P testnet, it's all about delivering what we call peer-to-peer networking capabilities. And what we mean by that is that the nodes, the block producing nodes, will be able to automatically discover other block producing nodes in the network. They'll be able to share information about the network topology. And they'll be able to do this on a dynamic basis. So what that means is that we'll be moving to a situation where we no longer control a central topology for the network, but rather the peers themselves will exchange information locally. They will build up their own model of the network, and they will adjust this so that over time they build the best possible set of connections for their own peers. So we're in a situation where we've deployed this internally. We've been working with a number of the stake pool operators who have been connecting to our peer-to-peer nodes, and they have told us that we are delivering really good connectivity through the nodes that we set up. So why does this matter? Well, it matters because what we're aiming at is full decentralization of the network. At the moment, IOG is running a number of so-called relays, central relays, that are managing the backbone of the Cardano network. And the goal is, of course, that as we move to full decentralization, this load is taken up by the network as a whole, by stake pool operators. And in this way, we will achieve the next stage of decentralization. So there won't be a single notion of a network. The network will be shared amongst all of the stake pools that are operating, stake pools, relays, wallet nodes that are operating. The network will be self-maintaining. There won't be a central point of attack or central point of failure. It will be fully distributed, fully decentralized. And that's what we're aiming at with the peer-to-peer networking.
So, Kevin, lots of hard work going on and positive progress, it sounds like. Maybe just tell us briefly about the stages that we'll be seeing over the summer.
So the first stage, Tim, as I was saying to you, is to roll out things on an internal testnet. We've been doing that over the last few weeks. Everything is working very well, and our nodes are actually connecting to mainnet. So even though we're running in a testnet setting, we're able to connect our own peer-to-peer nodes up with other people's nodes that are running on the network. That's the very first stage. What we're going to do next is to open up the testnet to a few stake pool operators, let them run the peer-to-peer node with our own peer-to-peer nodes. The network will have to be running a peer-to-peer only version initially, so a pure peer-to-peer network initially. And then as we build up, we're able to expand that, bring in more stake pool operators, move to a hybrid mode where we have peer-to-peer and non-peer-to-peer nodes working together using the governor mechanism that I've described to you, and that was put out in that rather nice YouTube video recently. Once we've done that, the next stage is going to be to move to a system which has gossip as well. So initially, the nodes will be able to connect to each other using some predefined topology file. But what we really want is that as a node connects to the network, it becomes self-discoverable, and it can also discover other peers in the network to connect to. In this way, the network will become self-perpetuating and self-governing in the long term. And some really cool features are being built in. But essentially, what happens is the node maintains a kind of map of the world, the map of the world that it's discovered. And within the map, it has a number of close neighbors, knows that it's friendly with, it's exchanging information with on an active basis. We call these the hot nodes. And that's a very restricted number. You don't want too many open connections at any point in time because it puts a load on the system. What you want is to have a few really, really good connections, a few really, really good neighbors and friends that you can exchange information with. And then beyond that, a broader circle, what we call a warm set of peers. They're not as closely connected as the hot set, but they're ones that you could choose to turn into better friends if you wanted to. And of course, when you do that, you can only have a certain number of friends in your connection set, so you're going to have to kick some out. So the nodes that have turned out not to be such good neighbors, such good friends, yes, you're going to kick some of those out and bring in some of the other ones who you think, yeah, they're going to be better. And thus, over time, you're going to build up a really, really good circle of friendly connections. And the final set is then just everyone else, all the other nodes that are in the network that you know about, but that you haven't established friendly relations with. So over time, what happens is the hot set becomes better and better connected. So you end up with a really good set of connections that adjust over time. So if the connectivity worsens, some of the peers are going to be thrown out of that set into the warm set. Some of the warm peers are going to be promoted up into the hot set. And likewise with the cold set, you might say, well, actually, these guys are in the cold set. Actually, maybe they could be potentially friendly. We might want to bring them into the warm set. And okay, some of these ones that we've got in the warm set, maybe they're not as good as the ones we've just brought in. Push them out a bit. And in this way, the network will just continue, go on, and as I was saying, be self-perpetuating. So hot, warm, cold, friends and neighbors. If you want to hear more about the wonderful world of Cardano nodes, Kevin will be joining the mid-month update. So make sure you click on the bell and subscribe to hear when that's going live. Kevin, thank you very much for the update. So on to research. We're going to talk about two projects today. We're going to start with Manuel Chakravarti and Sebastian Nagel with an update on Hydra, our scaling solution. And then we'll head over to Edinburgh to see Aggelos and hear more about rewards and pledging. So Manuel, Sebastian, thanks for joining us on the show. Now, Manuel, you're a familiar face to many people within the community, but perhaps we can just start with a brief introduction.
Hello, I'm Manuel Chakravarti, and I'm a researcher and technical architect at IOHK. My background is in research of programming languages and compilers. And at IOHK, I've been working at the Plutus smart contract subsystem, and recently also on the Hydra architecture, which we are going to talk about today. Before that, I've contributed to the Haskell programming language, among other things, in particular on the type families extension of the language.
And Sebastian, welcome to Cardano360 and welcome to IOHK as well, I think, a new face to the company. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Sebastian Nagel, and I'm a technical manager here at IOHK for the Hydra project. And I'm a software engineer by heart, originally from Austria, now living in Munich, Germany. and have been working in a quite different domain for the better part of the last 10 years. As a software engineer, I created robotic programming languages, app marketplaces, and IoT platforms for collaborative robots in the past. And it was that vision of democratizing robotics, which I also could see with IoG and also with Cardano, really democratizing finance here and banking the unbanked resonated a lot with me. And I now also made my hobby a job, and I'm happy to be here.
So Manuel, we're here to talk about Hydra, a name many will be familiar with, but perhaps you can just bring us up to speed on what Hydra is and what it's trying to achieve.
Hydra is Cardano's scaling solution. So what do I mean by that? As we know, generally speaking, public blockchains have a limited capacity to process transactions in the amount of transactions they can process per second, but also size-wise, because all these transactions are stored on the blockchain and have to be downloaded by other people joining the system. Now, a scaling solution allows us to scale up to more transactions per second, but also to be able to have more transactions in the system in the first place, because we avoid that all of these transactions have to be downloaded by every participant, but constrain it to a subset. Now, specifically, Hydra is a layer 2 solution. That means instead of having to modify the actual blockchain implementation itself, that's what we call layer 1, it's actually implemented using the Plutus smart contract subsystem of Cardano. And the advantage of that is that A, we are able to develop it more quickly in a more agile manner, and we don't have to change the most critical security sensitive parts of the blockchain, which is obviously something you want to avoid. Now, Hydra itself is not just one thing. It is actually a family of protocols. And the first protocol we've been working on is what we call the Hydra head protocol. It's a symmetric setup where multiple participants, all of which are online for the entire time of the head and exchange messages at potentially a very high rate, collaborate. Now, the second type of protocol, which we call the Hydra tail protocol, is an asymmetric setup. So we have a high performance server and many clients, which may just be on mobile devices and may be offline for a large part of the tail's existence. And then to put the icing on the cake, we are working on head and tail networking, which will allow us to produce a network of heads and tails.
So, Sebastian, you've come in to help drive the implementation of all the research that Manuel has been working on. Perhaps you can just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we're here basically standing on the shoulders of giants by making this a reality, what Manuel just quickly explained. So the previous research here is ongoing still, and we are basically doing engineering on the bleeding edge here. So this is all about implementing what has been researched, but also providing variations and feedback to the research. So it's a very collaborative approach. By doing this, we also don't want to lose focus on our users really, and by also that journey, uncover a good product there somewhere.
So let's talk a little bit about our users. Why is this important to Cardano, and what kind of experience are we trying to achieve by deploying this?
We think Hydra is all about growth and adoption. And it is by increasing the speed of transactions and reducing fees, even to a very minimum of even zero fees in some circumstances, we can improve scalability in various ways. And this is how Hydra will be an enabling factor to the Cardano ecosystem. We can enable applications which would otherwise be infeasible to do using Cardano, or just make all applications already on Cardano more powerful if they fit the layer 2 solutions quite well. Manuel has maybe some good examples on this.
So for the simplest example, think about Bitcoin Lightning. Lightning on Bitcoin allows cheap, fast, and many transactions which are payments. Now, these payments, they allow the Lightning system to scale beyond what the basic Bitcoin main chain would be able to do. And with Hydra, it's similar. We can do simple payments, but we can go further because Cardano, in contrast to Bitcoin, supports sophisticated smart contracts. Now, if you think about the Ethereum ecosystem, then if a new fancy, cool application comes around, like the next CryptoKitties, NFTs 2.0, something like that, then we always see the execution costs for transactions really going through the roof. You have to pay a lot, you have to wait a long time until your transactions are processed, and maybe you miss out on things. And Hydra is all about not falling into this trap. So that when all our great users come with their cool ideas about what to build on Cardano, Plutus, smart contracts, all the various functionality we provide them, that the system is able to keep pace and deliver everything without dropping in performance and these kind of bottlenecks which we've experienced on other platforms.
As you say, Manuel, scalability is a painful thing for many consumers out there at the moment. Tell us a little bit more about some of the research you're doing to really try and address that, which is a significant challenge for any blockchain.
Yeah, so far we have written a research paper on the first member of the protocol family, the head protocol. This is a research paper which we've published in Financial Cryptography 2021, a few months ago. And at the moment, we are working on writing up the second protocol, the tail protocol, and we hope to submit that to a conference soon. And in parallel to that, there's also work beginning on the interaction between heads and tails, so the interhead and tail networking.
From an engineering side, we assembled now a team working full-time on Hydra. So for the last couple of months, we've been exploring the problem and design space, what's possible, what's feasible, by trying out integrations with the Cardano ledger, with the Cardano Plutus smart contract platform, and really figuring out how would we do it, how would we go about it. Along the way, we are trying to figure out the architecture of a Hydra node, which would be accompanying to a Cardano node. And on top of this, we are also heavily involved in working together with the researchers, for example, by even contributing on the simulations of the tail protocol Manuel just explained.
So this is an ongoing process, isn't it, Manuel, of fundamental research, implementation, more research, and so on. What's next in terms of the research roadmap?
So apart from finishing the tail protocol, one really exciting property that distinguishes Hydra from many similar approaches by other projects is what we call the isomorphic property. Now that's a big word, but actually its meaning is quite simple. What it means is we can take any smart contract which is written for the main chain and run it in a Hydra head. And that's really something special because we don't have to have special purpose contracts just for layer 2 heads or something like that. The code that executes in the head is the same smart contract code that executes on the main chain. So now think about this. If a Hydra head can run the same smart contract as the main chain, and the Hydra head protocol is also on the blockchain side just a Plutus smart contract, then I can take this Hydra head contract and deploy it to a head. Then I get a Hydra head on top of a Hydra head. And from there on, the sky is the limit.
And from an engineering perspective, Sebastian, what can we expect to see next?
So we're still staying the ground a bit on this. And so we only just got started. We have done many experiments so far, which we are now continuously streamlining into one consistent approach of a prototype to exactly the first of the many protocols to come. So the Hydra head protocol is our current goal. We intend to create a small but also tangible incarnation of that head protocol as a first prototype, and in order to get our hands on there really, and also in order to facilitate understanding of what's possible with Hydra and how could it be applied and how could products be built out of it. So we also just open sourced or made our repository public on GitHub. So please follow along and see how we develop this proof of concept. It's going to be an interesting journey, and more updates to come, so stay tuned.
So still early days, but exciting stuff. And of course, if you want to check out that GitHub repo, we'll drop that link in the show notes below. Sebastian, Manuel, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us.
It was a great pleasure.
Welcome from breezy and foggy Edinburgh. I'm Aggelos Kiayias, Chief Scientist at Input Output and Professor at the University of Edinburgh. Today I will give you a short whiteboard video about reward sharing and pledging in Cardano. In any resource-based consensus protocol, resource holders are responsible for carrying out the basic tasks of ledger maintenance. This is true both for proof of work and proof of stake ledgers. The main difference is the resource used, hashing power versus coins. Any resource holder can become a protocol operator by installing and running software compatible with the platform. Resource holders can also pool their resources together and form a pool. In such pools, resource holders can have different responsibilities, but typically one will be the pool operator and will be responsible for running a server, organizing the transactions that are to be placed in the ledger, while others will be more passive. In this way, pooling splits the population of resource holders to delegators and operators. The problem here is to have a situation where operators have too little skin in the game. This is important because subverting a resource-based consensus protocol requires controlling a large amount of the active resources, say 51%. So if just a handful of operators have very high leverage in the sense of having 51% of the resources delegated to them, then the system can become much easier to attack. For this reason, it is important for a resource-based consensus protocol to have a mechanism for controlling the leverage of operators and having an oversight of how pooling takes place. Uncontrollable pooling, incentivized by economies of scale, can lead to highly centralized configurations. This brings us to one of the very innovative features of the mechanism that we use in the Ouroboros protocol in Cardano. Prospective pool operators declare themselves as such on-chain, and stakeholders can delegate to them their stake. In this way, pool operators acquire an identity within the system, and participants can use the blockchain itself as a pooling coordination mechanism. Moreover, the blockchain guarantees everyone's rewards, as participating in a stake pool becomes a smart contract between the operator and the delegates, and also, very importantly, keeps track of the performance of pool operators. Now, given such pooling coordination take place on-chain, it is possible for stakeholders to have a better understanding of highly leveraged operators and avoid delegating to them. In fact, you can design the ledger rules to adapt based on the way pooling takes place and favor certain configurations exactly because all the pertinent information is on-chain. In this way, it is possible to introduce mechanisms on-chain to steer the system towards highly decentralized states. To achieve that, the mechanism that we have introduced has two additional important features that are built in. The first is that rewards of any pools are capped to a particular level controlled by the parameter k. Right now, the parameter k stands at 500. When the total stake of a pool reaches 1 over k of the circulating supply, the rewards stop increasing. The second is that available rewards are split in two big pieces, controlled by the parameter alpha, which now stands at 0.3. Each pool can claim a slice from the left piece and a slice from the right piece. With the current parameter choice of 0.3, the rewards pie is split into two pieces of approximately 77% on the left and 23% on the right. A pool can claim a slice from the left piece in proportion to its total stake up to the 1/k threshold. It can also claim a slice from the right piece according to what we call a pledge benefit function. Now, the left slice is a reward to the pool for being popular with stakeholders during their on-chain pooling coordination. The more stake delegated to the pool, the larger the left slice will be in a direct linear relation up to the bound determined by the K parameter. The right slice is an extra additional reward to the pool for having an operator that is not too leveraged based on the evidence that exists on-chain. The pledge benefit function, which determines the size of this slice, increases with the size of the pledge of stake that an operator commits to their pool. The influence of pledging is similarly capped by 1/k. To appreciate the power of this mechanism, consider a stakeholder that does not wish to become an operator. Without an on-chain coordination mechanism for pooling, that stakeholder has only one option to participate as an operator. If that does not work for them, they will have to resort to off-chain pooling. Instead, using our on-chain pooling mechanism, the stakeholder has now two options to engage with the protocol: be an operator or a delegator. And having these two choices leads to higher participation and transparency, as well as ultimately better decentralization. How attractive is on-chain pooling is controlled by the alpha parameter. A low alpha grows the left piece of the rewards pie, making on-chain pooling more attractive. However, a low alpha can also create the incentive for operators to propose many identities in the system and in this way attempt to increase their leverage. They may even try to do this covertly in what amounts to a Sybil attack. For this reason, there is no right or wrong position for the alpha parameter. It is a trade-off between two desirable objectives: incentivizing on-chain pooling and de-incentivizing Sybil attacks. Combined with the action of the community, IOHK monitors the effects of these parameters as well as the other functions of the reward sharing scheme to ensure Cardano reaches and maintains a highly decentralized configuration. The current configuration is already highly decentralized, with thousands of operators sharing the responsibility for running the protocol. Nevertheless, IOHK may still make small adjustments to improve the experience of stakeholders with the mechanism. And when Cardano's on-chain governance system will take over, any future parameter adjustments will be completely to the hands of the community. So this brings us to the end of this whiteboard that described the main features of the reward sharing scheme used in Cardano. Hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye.
So thank you, Aggelos, for that. And we'll have a deeper dive into the work of the research team for you next month. So stay close to our social media channels to find out more when that's happening. We met SingularityNET earlier today, and I mentioned we'd have a bit of bonus content from them coming up. And we do indeed. Click that alarm, set those subscriptions, because tomorrow evening we'll be meeting Grace. In fact, Charles will be meeting Grace in conversation. So make sure you don't miss that. We have one final bit of news. Aparna, the summit. A lot of people are asking, are we going to have a Cardano summit?
Well, Tim, we are delighted to announce that we will have a Cardano Summit in September of this year. It will be a hybrid event, kind of a mix of digital and physical venues and audience. And I know I'm really looking forward to the team celebrating these successes that we've been having and sharing that with our community, as ultimately you guys have literally made our lives easier and more focused with the participation and the interaction and the feedback that we constantly get as we move along our roadmap. So thank you for that. And we will look forward to seeing you at the summit.
So that is indeed something to look forward to. We'll bring you more news and more detail, of course, a little bit nearer the time. but Cardano Summit coming in September. Until then, we've got lots of work to do. We've got 90 days of hard work, of development, of community testing. It's going to be a lot of fun. Join us for the mid-month update, and we'll see you for Cardano 360 next month.